The Chaos Emeralds are a staple and domineering aspect of the Sonic franchise, providing pivotal moments in the storyline and a perplexing addition to the universe's lore and unseen depth. Through them, we've also been introduced to another legendary feature that some Emerald wielders possess.
Chaos Control!
Chaos Control is a predominant recurring space-time manipulation effect induced by the power of the Chaos Emeralds, first exploited on-screen by a then-ambivalent Shadow the Hedgehog in Sonic Adventure 2. Despite taking a back seat in nowadays stories, this unique ability reappeared in numerous titles in Sonic media after SA2's release, playing a considerable key role in later game installments like Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic 06, as well as the franchise's anime adaptation, Sonic X. We're all familiar with it, but how does Chaos Control work exactly? I am the Sega Scourge, the Sonic Theorist, tackling 27 years of classic and modern Sonic alike. Let's find out.
Sonic Theorist.
In the last Sonic Theorist video, How Was the Moon Restored? Plug, I briefly touched upon Chaos Control as the key ingredient in the moon's revival after being blown in half in SA2. Since then, I've been thinking non-stop about this uncanny ability, and I realized that no one's ever really attempted to break down how exactly Chaos Control functions. Well,
Hey, Shad! Shad, what is that, your hipster nickname? Since you're the leading authority on Chaos Control, could you explain the science behind how the technique works?
Yeah, Shad, I want to know that too. How does it work?
It's simple. Hold Chaos Emerald, shout Chaos Control, go fast.
That's it? That wasn't sciencey at all.
well, as much of a good answer as hold Chaos Emerald, shout Chaos Control, go fast is, and from the Hedgie that made the skill famous no less, I've just gotta dive deeper. So, as you can tell, that's what I'm here to do today. I'm gonna try my best to explain my personal theory on how Chaos Control works, the whys and hows of this ability, evaluating the factors that determine the initiation of Chaos Control, what determinants correspond with the act, why and how they do, and how the result is thereby manipulated. A study into the science of Chaos Control. Just quickly, the Sonic Theorist videos take a lot of time and prep to make, and I'm still working on improving and updating the show even as we speak, as well as bringing you guys more types of awesome content. If you're a fan of the series and want to show your support, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as my next theory drops. Anywho, let's get this thing started. Little Theorist, my
boy.
LT? You're uncharacteristically quiet. You okay?
Voice damaged. Loading voice simulation software. I am the Sega Scourge, the Sonic Theorist.
Ready and waiting, Sega Scourge. Hey, you sound a little bit different. That voice of yours is awfully Yeah, never mind. Anyway, hope you're as pumped as I am for this one. I shall prepare a pressure gauge program, should you require one during the pumping of whatever item you wish to inflate. No, I mean pumped as in excited, ready to go, not literally inflating. Besides, what exactly did you think I wanted to inflate? Your ego, most likely. Come again? Anyway, right. So, there's many layers to this theory. So, first and foremost, let's try to establish what dictates the control aspect of Chaos Control, and what aspects of the user's body factor into commanding the technique, as no concrete explanation exists. Now, Chaos Control is by no means a motor function, nor is it kickstarted auditorily. You can't simply shout a phrase and cause subsequent reactions, least of all those that warp time and space. Even if you are solely thinking where you want to go or what you want to happen, that still means there are other factors at work here, namely, What part of the user's body link with the emerald in a way that allows utilization? As a good source point, and to get a better understanding of the topics we're discussing, let's step backwards through the history of the Chaos Emeralds, as far back as we can go, to some 4,000 years ago on the landmass that would later become Angel Island. Here, a young echidna girl will soon discover the sleeping gemstones and grasp the true meaning of their hidden power more than anyone after her time. Take a quick listen to Tikal's prayer from Sonic Adventure, and let's see if it offers any more insight into the physicality of the emeralds relative to the operator. LT, if you please.
With pleasure. Loading Sonic Adventure 1 visual record.
The servers are the 7 Chaos. Chaos is power. Power enriched by the heart.
Now that's interesting. One piece of that incantation sticks out a bit, more than others. Power enriched by the heart. Clearly a nod to emotion being said power, comparatively paraphrasing terms like having a lot of heart.
However, physically speaking, emotion is not governed by the heart. Instead, it is controlled by dozens upon dozens of neurotransmitters and chemicals that influence the medial temporal lobe or limbic system of the brain, which includes the hippocampus and other such sensory receptors that are essential for memory management.
Right. So, emotion governs chaos energy employment? Yeah, that doesn't sound like the answer altogether. Merely a fragment of it. Let's listen to another one of Tikal's accounts into the forces of chaos. This one from Sonic's endmost flashback sequence during the finale story of SA1. Go ahead, LT.
The 7 emeralds can change our thoughts into power.
The emeralds can change our thoughts into power. From that wording alone, this aspect is undoubtedly interwoven with yet another sector of the brain, the cerebral cortex. The cerebrum governs a wide variety of bodily functions like speech, muscle movement, motor skills, and other larger cognitive functions. The frontal lobe of the cerebrum, situated just under the forehead, is the subdivision that dictates complex thought processing such as reasoning and forethought. These two statements from Tikal suggest that the brain, particularly the frontal lobe and medial temporal lobe, are what's responsible for the initiation of chaos control, or the manipulation of chaos energies overall. Take into consideration we're dealing with a purely fictional form of energy here, chaos energy, the elements of which are unknown, as are how many rudimentary laws of physics this energy throws in the trash heap. An energy that can literally reach out and connect to a person's brain, forming an instant communication bridge, relaying information back and forth between the brain and the emerald, almost as if the emerald possesses a mind of its own, that is telepathically speaking to the holder. But how does something like that work exactly? Well, in terms of means for initiation, we can look at being in contact with the emerald itself, i.e., when Sonic or Shadow are holding an emerald. We'll call this touch contact. From this touch contact, you could argue that the information transfer is formed through electrical impulses sent from the emerald, cooperating with electrolytes, protons, and neurons in the receiver's brain.
Or perhaps generating an ionic current that opens a relay to the brain through conductance in the body, like sodium ions, potassium ions, or other bodily fluids.
But what about those occasions when no touch contact is applied? Those occasions when the characters aren't even touching the emeralds at all? You see, that's where it gets more tricky to interpret. In that case, once again reminding myself that this is a fictional form of energy that possesses unique properties, I then considered various energy conductants in the climate, such as gases and ions, atmospheric electricity, and even cosmic radiation. But none of these serve as a proper pipeline to allow constant and fluid energy flow. At my wit's end, that's when I'd considered another fascinating possibility: photosynthesis. Little Theorist, give us a definition.
Photosynthesis, whereby plants absorb light energy and use it to convert carbon dioxide from air and water into glucose, with oxygen being released as a byproduct of that system.
Light energy can be considered a form of kinetic energy or electromagnetic energy. So if perhaps an alternative divergent class of photosynthesis is taking place when the characters absorb nearby chaos energy, then that energy could be converted into chemical energy, and thereby a bridge between emerald and body could be produced. After all, what do the emeralds predominantly do when power is being drawn from them? They glow, radiating a transverse wavelength of photons and radiation in their spectrum.
And ironically, a diamond cut is one of the most light refractive formations for fluorescence and light stimulation, not counting whatever excess energy is being expelled from the thermal conductivity of light passing through the walls of the gemstone.
Exactly. So, my proposition suggests that brainwaves initiate chaos control, a transcendental dynamized link between mind and chaos through energy impulses. Without running this into the ground, let's move on. We have a lot to cover after all. Next up, I intend to determine what the act of chaos control is, and how we can ground it partially in reality through some scientific explanation. For Exhibit A, let's take a listen to Shadow's description of chaos control to Silver in Sonic the Hedgehog 06.
カオスエメラルドによって時空を制する僕の力に
Chaos control is broken up into two aspects. The most illustrious and well-known being the ability to teleport long distances in an instant. Reviewing Shadow's introductory cutscene in SA2, and more specifically Sonic's dialogue in said cutscene, it serves to prove that the speed Sonic was witnessing Shadow employ was actually mid-chaos control, during the labeled warp, only visible to Sonic due to his innate and highly acute senses. The same occurrence can be witnessed in Shadow the Hedgehog. When performing chaos control in regular stages, Shadow is flung through the level at warp speed to another location. But why is this the case? And how is such a feat possible? Warp speed travel. I did a lot of seesawing between warp travel theorem and Einstein's theory of relativity during my exploration into this concept, including notes on the stress-energy tensor. And after analyzing all these in moderate detail, I think I have a sound understanding and explanation for the quote-unquote tensile force of chaos control. The light-speed propulsion seen during chaos control in SA2 and Shadow is not the character's own physical momentum, but rather can be attributed to a slingshot effect, often equated to travel through a wormhole. If possible, enabling the user to traverse great distances in an instant. Do wormholes exist? Well, general relativity says so, but as of now, they remain undiscovered, as does the answer on how to create such an anomaly. All of science's leading authorities' theories on the matter can't stand on a conclusive answer to that, but can still offer an explanation grounded in relativity and credible cause.
The theory goes that if willfully able, by inciting a wormhole, you would trigger massive electrogravitational forces that expand and contract space and time, resulting in a deformation of the spatial plane, lessening the interspace to travel.
In layman's terms, think of space-time as a 2D surface that, when folded over, allows the formation of a wormhole bridge. By folding space-time like a piece of paper, a compact region of space is formed, connected by a singular tube annexed to openings on each side, allowing matter to pass through from one mouth to another, ergo making the distance to travel almost instantaneous. However, that's all well and good, but jolting through a wormhole isn't an entirely foolproof concept.
Holding the wormhole open presents another issue. Keeping a cavity in space-time open for even 0.1 of a second would demand an infeasible amount of negative energy. However, producing such exotic matter, this negative energy, is currently out of humanity's grasp, especially in such abundance. Without it, the wormhole would close off as soon as it forms. Not even light would be able to make it through in time, making the entire excursion unstable due to the preposterous idea of such a monstrous amount of negative energy existing, or being generated by mortal means. The bulk of energy required for such a feat would be approximately equal to the mass of our own observable universe.
Fortunately for this theory, though, a solution to this problem exists in the Sonic universe: chaos energy. The Chaos Emeralds are an infinite and perpetual source of energy, and as established in Sonic Adventure, much like batteries, they possess positive and negative energies respectively. Thus, the amount of energy buoyancy required to sustain a wormhole would be easily met if the energy release was eternal. That's my deduction. The answer to Chaos Control warp travel is a wormhole, composed of massive pools of negative energy. But there's two factors that define Chaos Control: space and time shifting, the latter being the second most common feature of the technique. Now, Sonic 06 shows us that when two individuals use two Chaos Emeralds in unison, a rift is formed, a naked singularity that serves as a gateway to another time period. And incidentally, my prior wormhole theory clears up any inconsistencies with that occurrence as well. Relativity and neurophysiology suggests that theoretically, the space-time geometry of a wormhole could be used to cut through not just space, but through time as well. There are several interpretations of this based on real-world studies, ranging from twin paradoxes to accelerating one aforementioned mouth of a wormhole relative to the other, and so on. But that's not what I'm here to cover in this video. I'm here mainly to examine the original, raw form of Chaos Control's influence over time. I'm speaking strictly of singular usage. Chaos Control utilized by one individual, most frequently used in a manner that leaves the user unaffected, but suspends or slows the course of time to others around them. Now, the theory of relativity suggests that speed of momentum governs the flow of time. This process is known as time dilation. Here's a quick breakdown of how it works at a basic level. Let's imagine there are two perfectly immaculate clocks, both precisely synchronized. One is flown on a jet aircraft, and the other is left stationary on ground level. Thereupon, when compared to the identical clock that is motionless, the clock in rapid motion aboard the airliner exhibits a slightly slower passage of time than the one at rest. The difference in their readings validates the swell in space-time. By that fact, relativity also proposes that light speed travel is strongly linked to the thesis on time travel. The vast complication with this notion, however, is that in the Sonic games, motion is not required. Chaos Control slows time around the user whilst they move at a customary speed. Momentum is not necessitated to initiate a protracted, altered time span during Chaos Control.
So what we need is a means to swell space-time without the use of light speed.
Yes, we do. Thus, began my investigation into a proxy dilation, a surrogate means to slow time without unreasonable forward speeds. Say, what about gravity? Like, say, from a black hole. A black hole emits such an enormous gravitational wave, not even light or particles can escape its pull. Not only that, but at the precipice of the event, known as the event horizon, the presence of time itself actually slows to a near halt due to the gravitational and spatial curvature deforming space-time. And to an observer, the flow of time may have literally ceased.
This effect is called gravitational time dilation. Closer to a gravitating mass, time slows, but the weaker the gravitational potential, i.e., the further away you are from the center of gravity, the faster time passes.
Precisely. So, in other words, for an observer, the time it would take to watch someone fall into a black hole would be literally infinite. In other words, the observer would never actually see that someone crossing the event horizon, as the time it would take the person falling in to cross said event horizon would be infinite. Confusing, right?
Sega Scourge, I hope you're not aiming to imply that a Chaos Control user is actually a walking singularity. Such an act would have disastrous consequences for both the wielder and passerby.
I can hear Void Wisp being typed furiously into the comments section right now. No, LT, I'm exploring the notion of black holes more in relation to gravity's tremendous influence over the flow of time. I'll elaborate more on that very soon, so keep it to one side for now. For now, no more beating around the bush. It's high time I disclose my belief on what causes the slow of time during Chaos Control. Upon undertaking this study, I came across a widespread plethora of remarkable studies into warp travel and gravity control, summarizing the various diverse, miscellaneous real-world experimentation into warp metrics and projections for use in space travel. One such article from 2015 that had me raise an eyebrow makes reference to a study NASA is undergoing right now that may change such astronomical ventures in the near future: the application and use of warp bubbles for manipulating space-time around the applicator. In concept, the warp bubble itself is made up of fields of positive energy on opposing ends and a large band of negative energy in the center. These fields give off enormous gravitational effects, so powerful that the bubble can distort space-time without having to accelerate the traveler to faster than light velocity. The prerequisite energy for this bubble being equal to the mass of Jupiter. Nowhere near as much demanded for wormhole travel, but still an ungodly amount. But as I established before, that amount of mass energy is possible in the Sonic universe due to the properties of chaos energy. And there you have it. I know that's abrupt, but that's the theory of mine. Let's review what we've gone through. What is the act of chaos control? Well, in short,
an isolated bubble via an immense gravitational field to curb the passage of time,
partnered with a quantum gravity-esque power to flatten and contort open space for traveling long distance in an instant,
all controlled through photosynthesized energy absorption, opening relays to the frontal lobe and medial temporal lobe
through the use of electrostatic or ionic impulses. That is chaos control. Well, that's just what I think anyway. As for chaos attacks and super forms, well, I have some little explanations into those as well, but sadly that's all the time I have for now. Perhaps if this little one-shot video is well received, I'll develop another installment covering those topics sometime in the future. Let me know what you guys think about my interpretation in the comments below. I'd love to hear what your views on chaos control are. Chaos Control's time in the story limelight may have faded, but its presence lingers on even to this day in games like Sonic Forces. Chaos Control is an awesome, iconic addition to the lore of Sonic the Hedgehog that incited childlike awe and wonder in a younger me. With the power to manipulate not only space, but time as well. Who knows what kind of things a person could achieve with that power in real life?
You seem to be expressing significant interest in the act of time travel, Scourge. May I ask what you're concealing behind your back at this moment?
Oh, nothing, really. Just, you know, the Chaos Emerald.
I see. And what exactly are you planning to do with the emerald?
Well, for closing this video, maybe a test?
A test? Could you please elaborate on your meaning?
I was planning on maybe performing a short, teeny tiny demonstration of chaos control myself. You know, for science. I was thinking maybe we could travel to the past and revisit some theories. That Metal Sonic theory's looking awful stale after all.
Sega Scourge, I must object. Despite our research, we still know very little about chaos control itself. And if split timeline theory is accurate, you may inadvertently create an alternate history for you and your channel.
Don't be such a stick in the mud. Maybe you should let me handle things from here, okay, LT? Besides, what's the worst that could happen?
Sir, I implore you. The results could be highly unsatisfactory to your...
can't hear you. You must be glitching out. What was that? The results could be satisfactory? Oh, well then. In that case, chaos control! Hey, whoa!
Error.
LT, what's going on?
Little Theorist system not found. Error.
The Mushroom Kingdom, the center stage for the adventures of the red-mustached plumber, is a locale classic to gaming culture, and paradigmatic in the universe which the games take place. Though lush and beautiful, to some degree, barren, even archaic in fashion, with a subculture of toads as the only notable residents, and the plains littered with Koopas and Goombas alike, parodies of turtles and common fungi, notably bizarre in appearance. Some might even say, mutated. Could the Mushroom Kingdom as we know it today, in fact, be the remnants of a long-forgotten nuclear war? I am the Nintendo Scourge, the Mario Theorist, tackling 33 years of classic and modern Mario alike. Let's find out.